Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome in. Good morning here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and it is our final show before Super Bowl Sunday. Andrew Rogers here with me. I'm Ravi Lulla. AR, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, I got to ask you because you are, so close to Sunday at this point. As a fan that has a team in the Super Bowl, which I don't really know much about, how are you feeling knowing that, one, this is a rematch from 4 years ago?
Yep.
And you know how that one went, right? 20-10 going into half. Then it got away from the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that you have to see Mahomes again.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why, kind of since conference championship week, I've been a little bit freaking out is too strong of a word. But, I kept asking the questions like, I think the Ravens are better. I don't want to face Mahomes, right? I kept saying that with our guests and everybody. And I'm not like, it's like even a PTSD thing from 4 years ago. It's just, he's the new Brady. He's the guy that you never want to bet against. And when your team is playing the guy you never want to bet against, you don't feel great, right? Like, because there's a reason you don't bet against that guy. Same reason, that I was, same reason that I went with the Chiefs in the conference championship game. I was like, this is just the dude. Like, he's just the dude. And I don't feel good about going up against that guy. And I honestly, I think the matchup with the 49ers is really similar to the matchup that they just had with the Ravens. I think the 49ers have a better roster. I don't feel good about ever saying like, yep, Patrick Mahomes is going to lose a game like that. Just especially in the playoffs doesn't feel awesome. I will say, as somebody who roots for the 49ers, I kind of have been like dissociating a little bit. Like I go through kind of the process of how we do the show, right? And it's like, oh, let's talk about this and let's talk about this. I haven't really allowed myself to think about the fact that, hey, in a couple days, your team is actually playing in the Super Bowl and you have to go up against Patrick Mahomes and all this, right? But I kind of comfort myself by saying, okay, well, Eli Manning beat Tom Brady twice. Like,
it can happen.
If Brock Purdy can just beat Eli Manning, which, if you know anything about me, that is not a high bar in my mind to clear, being Eli Manning. Like, if he can just be Eli Manning, like, I keep talking myself into, okay, that's feasible. Like, that you could do that. That's doable. Is it likely? Maybe not, but it's doable.
It's definitely not Isaiah likely.
I just need it to be plausible. All right. I don't need it to be probable. So that's where I'm at. I'm sure Sunday I'll probably start to get pretty anxious. Just because it's partly because like Super Bowl Sunday is the all-time Sunday scaries, right? Because you wake up Monday and there's no more football.
Well, maybe for you, I have 2 months of buildup for the number one pick.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, but no more football games, right? You know me. I love me a combine. I love a draft.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
So I'm not, I can stay in it a little bit longer. Then we got spring football, so it's not really, you get to the end of, like mid-May and you're like, oh, it's a desert here now. There is no football to be found.
Yeah, you're going to start a flag football league in Omaha.
Well, I'm going to end up watching like the UFL probably because I'll be like, listen, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'll see somebody I like from college or whatever. Travis says UFL. Come on, Ravi. But yeah, so
Battlehawks.
There we go.
I'm getting you a t-shirt. You're becoming a fan with me.
Listen, I don't have a team. I need to adopt somebody. It's it's the Rock's latest venture, and I love me some Dwayne Johnson. So let's do it. Let's be a Battlehawks fan. It's a cool name. I don't know what it means.
The slogan. I say the slogan, but it's like the fan slogan is cacaw.
Mm-hmm.
So like anytime you talk about the Battlehawks, you go cacaw. So I mean, think about how awesome that is, just for one.
Well, true, yes.
And two, like the Battlehawks is that up with the Supernovas with premier names in their league.
It's a good name. It really is. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I'm willing to investigate. Being a Battlehawks fan, I'm willing to look into it. But no, it's I probably will start getting pretty anxious like Sunday. Until then, I'm usually able to, if I remember last or 4 years ago correctly, at least, I'm usually able to keep it pretty calm until then. And then Sunday, probably around noon, is when I'll start to, kind of feel the little anxiousness in my tummy and being like, I'm not ready for this.
It's great too, not having a team or some sort of rooting interest in this game. Now, I'll probably have some outstanding sports bets, which have
are
been
your
placed
rooting
ahead of
interest.
time,
Yeah.
courtesy of Warhorse, which means I have to come back to Omaha to cash them,
That's
which is
true.
kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because you got to come visit us, and
yeah.
then you get some cash for it.
Right,
Pay for your
exactly.
trip. You're good to go.
And you know what's great about that too? On top of it, I have national championship outstanding bets in Vegas from my trip in January.
Oh, nice.
So if Creighton, if Nebraska, or if Texas wins the national title, I'm going to Vegas for free, baby. I'm going to Vegas for free.
There we go. I love it. Well, let me set up the show real quick because we got way too much stuff to get to, as you can imagine, on a day like today. Coming up here at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to our guy, Damon Benning, going to preview the Super Bowl a little bit with DB. We had Matt Vrzal move up to 8:30 this morning so we could kind of close out the show the way we wanted to with Super Bowl picks and stuff like that. So Verz was gracious enough to move his time slot for us. 8:45. Super excited to talk to Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. We've talked to her a couple times. She's been super gracious with her time with us, and we got her on the last show before the Super Bowl because that was a request that Andrew and I made. It was like, hey, let's get Cynthia back on the last day before the Super Bowl. So we're super excited to have her. Then Mike Sautter will join us at 9 a.m. live in studio like he always does. And then we've got some fun stuff kind of planned throughout the day here as well. So at the very end of the show, we're going to do a Super Bowl party food draft, much like we did for Thanksgiving. Andrew has compiled a list. Cam, Andrew, and I are going to draft and see who ends up with the best Super Bowl party food and drink. Don't forget about the drink as well. And then I think Andrew threw a surprise category in there as well. That'll be fun. That's at the very end of the show. Obviously, Andrew and I will do our picks, and we'll kind of run through the Warhorse prop card that we've been talking about for the last month. That, maybe you can get some ideas on how to try and go 25 for 25 and try and win that $100,000 with Warhorse. So we'll give you some of our thoughts there as well. But before we get to any of that, yesterday, Husker 24/7, we talked about it with BC a little bit. The Super 6 came out, and it's great timing because I thought to myself, we did Super 6 for Huskers. Let's do Super 6 for Super Bowl as well.
The Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl Super 6. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but I thought to myself, okay, we do the Super 6 for the Huskers where it's the 6 most impactful newcomers, however we decide to, judge that. So I thought, hey, let's do a Super Bowl Super 6. And I gave you no criteria whatsoever. I said 6 total players from both teams. So we're doing only 6, not 12 here. And I said, just give me 6 players. And I included coaches in this too. And I would say, hey, just give me the 6 players or coaches from both teams that you think will be the most impactful. And that's a very vague word, right? Impactful, like could be good, could be bad, could be whatever. But I thought it would be a really good way to kind of work through how each of us are thinking through the Super Bowl. And so here's what I ended up finding out, Andrew, while I was going through my picks, or while I was making my picks last night, is I ended up almost putting like 5 49ers on this list. And not because I'm a fan, actually. I know that's probably where people are like, what a homer, or whatever. But it's actually because I'm less sure of what the 49ers are in this situation, right? The reason I found myself gravitating towards 49ers over Chiefs was I feel like I know exactly who some of these Chiefs guys are in this situation because I just saw them here last year. I've seen them here a couple times overall, and I'm like, I feel like I know who these guys are in this situation. So it almost ended up being, to me, like the wild card is too strong of a word, but guys that could be the most impactful but had like a variance of good or bad, right? So I'll start going from there. Now, this does not really fit that criteria, but I didn't want to overthink my number one spot. My number one's Patrick Mahomes. Okay.
Kind of like Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, just like DR, I was going to say exactly what I was going to say. Just like DR, you don't want to overthink the top spot. Like it is, if Patrick Mahomes goes, supernova Patrick Mahomes and is cooking and he's scrambling and extending plays and doing all that, like it's over, right? Ball game, nothing else, no one else's name on this list matters, right? If Patrick Mahomes is going full like Chef Curry mode, we are done here, right? So that's why he's number one on my list. I didn't want to overthink that. I assume he's number one on yours as well.
He is number one. He's the first player at the position to start 4 Super Bowls under the age of 30. That right there is such a prestigious stat on its own.
It's bonkers.
He's seeking his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. Mahomes has more combined playoff wins in a 6-year span than any other quarterback. There's a reason Patrick Mahomes has been able to create this name for himself, especially this season as well. You look at his turnover numbers, and he hit a career high and if he finished the regular season with his worst record, and I say worst record of 11-6 of his time as a starter, but he's gotten back to his old ways. If he even needed to get back to old ways, he's 3-0 with 0 turnovers in the playoffs. He's playing his best football. And you're right. If he can be the magician we all know that he is, the 49ers are in for a long, long Sunday evening.
Yeah, it's a total wrap. If he's who he can be, which part of that, we always talk about this with football, right? It's really hard to isolate anybody's performance. Part of that is obviously going to mean like, okay, his receivers are playing well, and the 49ers defense isn't able to get pressure on him with 4 and like that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot that goes into that one. But if he is playing at peak Patrick Mahomes level and no one stops him from it, it's going to be a problem. So number 2 for me, again, this is probably just me not overthinking it here. It starts to get wonky for me at 3, if I'm being honest. But number 2 for me is Brock Purdy. And this one, there's a ton of variance here, right? If we have a Baltimore Ravens 4 interception Brock Purdy, again, this thing is a wrap. If we have, in a bad way for 49ers fans, obviously, if we get a Brock Purdy looks like kind of midseason MVP version of him, and he's able to distribute to all those playmakers, and he's able to control the game and keep the 49ers on the field and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, and make sure McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle and Ayuk are all getting involved in the passing and running game and all that kind of stuff that Shanahan's dialing up, then the 49ers have a really good shot at winning the Super Bowl here. That to me he's probably got the biggest variance in terms of positive or negative impact. And so for that reason, I've got him number 2.
Yeah, that's a little high for my list. I'm with McCaffrey at 2. He's been an MVP candidate all year, and his numbers prove that. Over 2,000 total yards, 1,400 on the ground, 560 through the air. He's got 21 touchdowns. He's just been imposing his will in the playoffs. And with 188 rush yards and 4 scores in the 2 wins, I could not keep him any lower than 2 for just the impact that he brings on his own. Because I also look at, okay, the prowess of him in this offense versus Purdy. And if I want one or the other, I know where you're going and I know where your head's at with the Purdy take. But McCaffrey just it's more of a solid option while the ice may be melting a little bit in Purdy's court. So because of that, I'm going with the for sure versus the variable.
See, and I actually agree with you with all your points, and that just goes to show you how we thought differently about our list, right? Mine is almost like storylines, right? If this happens one way or another, this guy's going to be the story. I actually agree. Christian McCaffrey is one of the things I'm most sure about in this game. He's going to get his yards. He's going to get probably 1 or 2 touchdowns. He's going to get some receiving yards. He's going to get some rushing yards. He's going to be an impactful player. But I feel like I know that without a shadow of a doubt. So I didn't even put him on my list, if I'm being honest.
That's again like what I talked about yesterday with Dylan Raiola. You still have to include him.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, I probably overthought this a little bit starting at number 3. But I felt like, this is a dude that I know exactly what I'm going to get out of him. So I don't even need to include him, which is, again, the reason why my list was starting to skew really 49er heavy, because I feel like I know way more about the Chiefs. So my number 3 is, and this is, again, it starts to get a little wonky for me here because I was thinking about the list in a weird way, which is my own fault because it's my list and it was my idea. So I'm just like, this is,
you were losing sleep over your own list.
Yeah, no, this is a problem of my own making. I'm very aware of this. Number 3 on my list, I've got Kyle Shanahan because of his history in Super Bowls. You mentioned blowing the 10-point lead in 2019, 2020, and he obviously had the big blown lead as an offensive coordinator in Atlanta, and the I think pressure may be the wrong word, but there will be a lot of attention paid to, especially if the 49ers have a lead, how he handles the play calling, how he handles situationally. I think there is a lot of attention on Kyle Shanahan tomorrow. Again, I know exactly what I'm going to get out of Andy Reid. I'm going to get a great game plan. He's going to get exactly what he needs to out of his team. I trust his play calling in every situation. I don't need to find out about Andy Reid because I already know. We do need to find out a little bit about Kyle Shanahan in this moment, and that to me is why he was so high on the list, because he's got kind of some history with Super Bowls.
Travis Kelce is my number 3. Remains Patrick Mahomes' favorite weapon. 8 straight seasons with at least 900 receiving yards in 3 games here in postseason play, 262 yards and 3 touchdowns. And look, we've talked about Kelce all year and how much of a down year for him that he's having. And it's kind of like this. He is, if he has the big game, then Mahomes and this offense will go. As much as Mahomes is the engine that makes the offense go, I almost want to make the argument that it's Kelce at the end of the day, because if Mahomes doesn't have guys to throw to or that for sure option to get the football to, then he's not as dynamic as we normally as we normally see him every Sunday. You think back to that game against Buffalo, the 13-second game. That was last season, right? I mean, it feels like forever ago.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it was last season.
It does feel like 6 years ago, but I think it was last year.
And you look at the very first play with 13 seconds to go, and it's a screen pass to Tyreek Hill. It's like, okay, yeah, for sure option for Mahomes. Then you look at the very next play, and it's a short pass to Kelce, who gets them in field goal range. So without Tyreek Hill this year, you only have Kelce to rely on in those big moments, and that's why he ranks so high on this list. It's because of his impact for that team.
I think it was Pacheco, right? Tyreek Hill's been gone 2 years.
Was it Pacheco? Well, then it was 2 years ago.
Okay,
because the first one was definitely Tyreek Hill.
Okay, it must have been 2 years ago then.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But regardless, I agree. I do have Travis Kelce on the list because of his ability to ad lib with Patrick Mahomes. Now I've got him a little bit lower, but they've got a like unspoken eye contact, like weird twins telepathy bond that they just know where the other one's going in a way that makes, you can do everything right and still give up a huge play or a touchdown, or that allows them to get into field goal range. It's why I said yesterday, Patrick Mahomes cannot have the ball in a one possession game late. Like that's the worst case scenario for me, other than, the 49ers being blown out or whatever, right? It like Patrick Mahomes having the ball in a one possession game is just a nightmare fuel for me. But I do have Kelce on that list as opposed to some of these other guys, because there is a ton of ad lib ability with him and Patrick Mahomes. I don't have him till 5. A guy that I just mentioned, I've got Isaiah Pacheco at 4. I think he's really, really important to the Chiefs game plan. And I also think he's really, really important because we saw what the Lions did to the 49ers rush defense in the NFC Championship game. If Pacheco's able to start shredding them up the way that Gibbs and Montgomery were able to for Detroit, the 49ers are in real trouble. they're in like real deep trouble if Pacheco is able to do that to them, even if it's just for a half, like it was against Detroit. They're in some problems because the second half they don't have to go against Jared Goff; they have to go against Patrick Mahomes, even if they figure out the run game. So that to me, Pacheco's a huge factor in this game because of the questionable 49ers run defense that we saw, and I think if he performs well, obviously it makes the Chiefs offense more dynamic and less one-dimensional, and that is going to make them that much harder to stop. I mean, they're hard enough to stop with Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey the way we're talking about anyway, but Pacheco, I think, opens up a whole other realm for Andy Reid and his play calling, and that scares me a little bit.
Now, you went 4 or 5 back-to-back, and to help speed this thing up, I'll do that too, because my 4 is somebody you've already talked about, and that's Brock Purdy.
Sure.
So this is where Purdy lands on the list for me because he's not as dominant as the other 3 that I mentioned, but you're absolutely right in the fact of saying that if Brock Purdy has a good day, the 49ers will have a good day. If he doesn't have a good day, then it's well, you're not going to have a lot of fun watching that football game, Ravi. There's just a ton that I could get into, but I think the biggest thing here is to go back on what Mike Lombardi said on the show yesterday when he called him Kurt Warner. Like, Brock Purdy's an afterthought. He's always been an afterthought. Coming into the league, he was Mr. Irrelevant. And remember Kurt Warner and his story just for a moment, how he improbably led the NFL in key passing marks during his first year as a full-time starter. He produced his first comeback victories in the playoffs and went on to lead that greatest show on turf offense to the Super Bowl. Well, we're kind of seeing a lot of that reflecting in the mirror, and Brock Purdy's on the other side. I mean, you look at the MVP caliber season Purdy's had, 21-4 with him under center, including playoffs as a starter with the 49ers. 44 touchdowns, 15 interceptions in his total career. But statistically, he was the most efficient quarterback in the NFL this year. That paced all starters. So he's having that dream season. He's having that Kurt Warner-like season. And if I remember the greatest show on turf, Ravi, I think something good happened in the end.
They may have won a Super Bowl. I'm almost positive.
And then my number 5, just so we can get to that one, is Harrison Butker. Now, I mentioned...
I knew you were going to put a kicker on here.
I had to put a kicker in. Come on. And I couldn't put Jake Moody because he doesn't have the clutch gene that Harrison Butker has.
That he scares me a little bit.
Just not yet, right? I mean, he is a former third-round pick, and, he's a rookie this year. But Harrison Butker has been old reliable for this Chiefs team. And that includes the playoffs. That includes the regular season. That includes probably every scrimmage that he's played on the field in the offseason. I mean, there was one time where he kicked a field goal from like 64, and the Chiefs got to skip practice the next day because that's what Andy Reid wagered in that moment. So Harrison Butker is just he's an unstoppable force. He's had a career high in field goal conversions this year. He's hitting 100% of his PA or as his extra points, right? And we know how many kickers miss PATs. He's a perfect 7 for 7 on playoff field goals this year. If he gets in field goal range at any point in time, especially late in the game, say it's 24 all, and the Chiefs have a game-winning field goal from 51 yards out, Ravi, you can just turn the TV off right there.
Well, I don't like that, Andrew. Coming up, we will finish out our Super Bowl Super 6. We will dive into our real Super 6, and hopefully Andrew doesn't have any more kickers on his list. We'll see. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
So there's 4 Huskers in the UFL. Adrian Martinez.
We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We are also on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Rogers here with me, and we are going through our Super Bowl Super Six. We've gone 1 through 5 already, and we've got 6 and our sleeper up left. And I've got another coach at my 6. It's Steve Wilks.
Okay.
Niners defensive coordinator. We talked
Deserving.
about this earlier in the week, right? The 49ers have all the talent you could want on defense. They have not always played that way, especially in the playoffs, especially in the first half of both of their playoff games. I am kind of using Steve Wilks almost as a placeholder for the entire defense because I didn't want to put a whole unit on here, but I also do think he specifically has a lot to do with what's happening here because we heard a lot about we didn't play with good effort against the Lions, and there was some issues there. I wonder how much of it's that, and I wonder how much of it was defensive play calling and having them prepared for the Lions offense. That to me is a concern here in this game. If the 49ers can fix that side of the ball, starting with Steve Wilks, they're going to be in much better shape because what did we talk about earlier? If you can get Brock Purdy to be Eli Manning in this scenario to knock off the new Tom Brady, which is our guy Patrick Mahomes, then you need the 49ers defense to do what the Giants defense did to Tom Brady. That's heat him up without bringing extra guys. That's the biggest thing, is get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. If you can get pressure with 4, which the 49ers should be able to with the guys they have up there with Bosa and Hargrave and Armstead and Chase Young, and they got Randy Gregory coming in as a pass rush specialist. Like, they should be able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Then they'll be in good shape. But Steve Wilks has to have a good game.
He deserves a lot of credit too for taking over DeMeco Ryans defense and making them Super Bowl contenders again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another point to add. If I was probably choosing between him and Spags, I would lean Spags because of the work that he did this season. But I think you're on to something when you talk about this defense kind of being the missing piece of the 49ers effort as a whole, because the guy I have at 6 is Nick Bosa.
Fair.
So I stuck to just one guy because Bosa has just not been there. In fact, he's basically disappeared. And you wonder because you look at the linebacking group and Fred Warner and company are like, they're the hard-hitting guys, and they have been this postseason. But where is like the line gone? Because it's almost as if they're the soft hitting of the group, and you can't have that, especially against Mahomes when you have to get a ton of QB hurries. So I have Bosa on this list because not only is he the most talented defensive player on the football field, he still has like a lot to unleash. Like, just take the cork out of the bottle. That's what they need to figure out how to do in this game. If he can pop that cork and let the champagne flow, the champagne will continue to flow in the locker room after this game. Bosa has a lot of experience. He's been to the Super Bowl before, and he'll need to be Super 6 worthy for San Francisco to have a chance in stopping Mahomes. Because what do we know about this defense? Right now, they're giving up, 159 yards on the ground? And that's just one statistic of how poor this defense has been playing. If for one night, right? Because look, at any point in time, a really good defense, especially an elite defense like this, one good night, that's all they need. Why not on Super Bowl night, right?
Yeah.
Why not? If it hasn't been coming in the games before, this defense will not just, stay as low as they are. The only place they have to go right now is up, and it only makes sense for that to happen right now.
Yeah, so I do want to clarify a little bit on Bosa. So he did have 2 sacks against the Lions, but I think I understand what you mean because he didn't have a ton of consistent pressure against the Lions. And that's the 49ers as a whole, but Bosa as well. It was very kind of boom or bust, and that's not going to work with Mahomes. You need to have consistent QB pressure where you're just living in their backfield. And so, yeah, the stats can be a little misleading and say, yeah, okay, well, he got to Jared Goff twice. It's like, yeah, but those were about the only 2 times he got there, right? I need him to get there 10 or 12 times, whether it's him or the rest of the line or whoever, right? I need them to get there consistently, and whether you actually get the sack or not is often secondary to how you impact Mahomes and what he's able to do on that play. Now, with Mahomes, you probably do need to finish a lot of those with sacks because of his ability to extend plays and make life difficult if you get him out of the pocket and allow him to improvise a little bit. But we were talking to Lombardi yesterday. Remember the way he was running around like a chicken with his head cut off against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay lived in his backfield, and I have no idea how many sacks Tampa Bay had in that game, but the enduring image of that game for me is them chasing Patrick Mahomes, right? And if the 49ers can replicate that, which they've got the guys to do it. Let's be clear here. They have the guys to do it. Whether they can actually execute that or not is probably going to make the difference in this game. And so I think we're very much on the same page there with our last pick in the Super Six. Now it is time for sleepers. Now,
my favorite.
It is. So this one was difficult for me because there's a lot of guys I could have picked here. I could have put McCaffrey here, but again, I feel like I know what I'm getting out of McCaffrey, so he doesn't make sense as a sleeper. I felt like I could have put basically any of the Chiefs receivers here because we have no idea what we're going to get out of them, whether they're going to catch the ball on any given day or not. But where I ended up going was a guy I mentioned with B. Edwards yesterday that I think has really high boom potential in this game, and that's Deebo Samuel. I think that because there's games, if you watch the 49ers frequently, there's games where Deebo Samuel is like a normal dude, and then there's games where Deebo Samuel is Superman, and he takes 8-yard passes and takes them to the house, and he just bullies people, and he's breaking tackles like he's Tim Riggins on Friday Night Lights. Like, this is a dude that has another level to him that you don't always see. And I don't think it's an effort issue. I just think there's some games that he really pops off. And I think that to me is why he's my sleeper, because I think there's like a certain level to expect out of Deebo, but there's this whole other level that he can get to. And if we see that level, again, a lot of it's to do with Brock Purdy. A lot of it's to do with some of the other pieces around him. But if he gets to that level, the 49ers are in really good shape.
My sleeper is more of a group and not a player, because I had a hard time really pinpointing just one guy in this group. So I'm going with the Chiefs defensive backs.
Okay.
Because they've been locked down. They've been aggressive. This trio of cornerbacks in L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, and then you add in Justin Reed, they've combined for 15 tackles for loss and 27 pass deflections, including the playoffs. Like this trio, did anybody expect the Chiefs to look like this in the pass game? Absolutely not.
I don't think so, no.
And you know what? They've done everything they've needed to do and everything that's been asked of them and more. And so they are kind of the X factor in this game, especially to see how Purdy works them, because it's not like this 49ers offense is so old school where they just kind of run it down your throat and then maybe on third down they'll get a little cute. Like, no, Purdy likes to drop back. He likes to look down the field. And I'm really going to pay attention to a Deebo Samuel in this game to see how he gets open. I'm going to pay a lot of attention to Travis Kelce to see how he can beat those Chiefs, or George Kittle, to see how he can beat those Chiefs linebackers, and also Brandon Ayuk. Like, I wonder about him and seeing how much separation he can create from those DBs. But the Chiefs are locked down, and they're not afraid to play tight on you. And they're going to make you work for every single yard. They're the sleeper for me in the Super Six.
Yeah, that's a good pick. It's a unit that I think a lot of people thought would be good, but they've taken a leap this year that to a level that I don't know that a lot of people were expecting. The other thing is it's a really interesting matchup because I don't know that the Chiefs have faced a team. I mean, mostly because there's really not that many teams in the league that have as many weapons as the 49ers have, right? It's easy to figure out how to stop one or two guys. When you've got 3 or 4, it starts becoming another thing. And the 49ers legitimately have 4 in McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo, and Ayuk. That's where it gets super interesting here, and that's why I think this is such a great Super Bowl matchup. That's our Super Bowl Super 6. We will wrap up hour number 1 by jumping into our regular Super 6 with the Huskers that got released by Husker 24/7 yesterday. Next on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. TK, I think, giving one of his Super Six, says Justin Reed for the Chiefs will likely be manned up against Kittle for their blitz packages. That's a good call out there by TK. Defending Kittle and defending the other 49ers weapons is going to be really, like I said before the break, having 4 guys that can all sort of change a game for you is a huge advantage for the 49ers. And as good as the Chiefs defense is, they haven't seen this before. I'm not saying that means they're going to lose. I'm not saying that means they're not going to be able to deal with it. I'm just saying they haven't dealt with it yet. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But that wraps up our Super Bowl Super Six. Let's hop into our Nebraska Super Six. Came out on Husker 24/7 yesterday. Andrew and I both contributed lists to the voting here. Quick reminder, the final results were Dylan Raiola 1, Carter Nelson 2, Grant Bricks 3, Caleb Benning 4, Dante Dowdell 5, and Micah Mazuka at 6. But we wanted to jump specifically into the picks that Andrew and I made because Ours were a little different than the consensus, and I kind of just wanted to walk through our thought process here as just sort of an exercise of how we're thinking through the team here coming up into spring practice. So both of us put Dylan Raiola number one. Pretty self-explanatory. Not sure we need to dive into that a bunch. Like that.
No, top recruit ever, biggest area of need. That's that.
Like, yeah, very likely the starting quarterback. I know they're trying to tell everybody like, oh no, it's open. Okay, all right, whatever. If Dylan Raiola doesn't get this job, something went wrong.
It's like I told BC yesterday, the state will burn down.
It might. Like, I'm not 100% sure that's not accurate. So moving on to number two, I was way out on a limb on this one, apparently, because not only did my number two guy not make the Super Six, but was not on very many ballots and was kind of a largely forgotten by most of the people that kind of made these lists. And that was Jamal Banks for me, the transfer wide receiver from Wake Forest. To me, you mentioned area of need with the quarterback spot in Raiola. To me, this and running back were huge areas of need on the offense for Nebraska. I like a lot of the guys they're bringing back and that they've got coming in for receivers. I want to be very clear about that. They don't have anyone with this level of production coming back. That to me is really, really important, especially if you're having a true freshman quarterback starting in game one. The issue of having not just a true freshman starting quarterback, but also some pretty inexperienced wide receivers, that to me would have been a really uncomfortable situation. They can learn and grow together, but I'd like to have a safety net, a security blanket for Dylan Raiola. And to me, that's Jamal Banks. He's got the experience at the Power 5 level. He's produced at this level. I think he's a hugely important. And listen, if he only performs at a Billy Kemp level next year, then that's probably, and this is nothing against Billy Kemp. He had a tough time with quarterbacks and everything. I think you need him to be a little more impactful. Now, I'm not saying numbers necessarily, but I don't think Billy Kemp had a huge overall impact on the season. Jamal Banks probably needs to have a larger impact than Billy Kemp, even if the numbers aren't hugely different.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. He has to have a bigger impact. I like Banks on the list. I did not include him, as you know, because I liked the state that the wide receiving room was in, and I thought they were actually a lone bright spot for that offensive group as a whole last season. So I wasn't too worried about that. I went with the best two-way player in the state as my number two, and Caleb Benning. And the reason I did this was because I think he could turn out to be a superstar at Nebraska, a future captain of this defense at Nebraska. His focus, his work ethic, his gamesmanship are traits that I really like about him. Now, he's all business. He's a great teammate. He's shown that leadership at the high school level. You know, I think back to even that moment where he lateraled a punt return to his buddy so he could score a touchdown. Like, that's the character that you get out of a guy like Caleb Benning. And on top of it all, the best thing I think he has, and I mentioned gamesmanship, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that. He plays with a psychological advantage. He is the salesperson to their customer. He is better able to read and control the other. And that is just something you can't teach. It's something that you develop on your own. He's got a fantastic attitude and outlook on the game. He could really bud into a superstar at Nebraska.
Yeah, I've got Caleb on my list too. He's a little bit further down, but I'll talk about my thoughts on him here because since you've got him at 2. The only reason I didn't have him higher was I wasn't sure as a true freshman, and I put a lot of emphasis on this year in my list. I wasn't sure as a true freshman what his total role will be. I think he's going to contribute in special teams immediately.
That's another one too. Remember that. I mentioned the punt returns.
Yeah.
What was Nebraska lacking in last season?
The return game was terrible, right? Like, not good. And he's not only got the physical skills to do it, but he's got the mentality to do it as well. You mentioned that psychological advantage. It takes a special kind of sicko to want to return punts. You're just staring straight up in the sky while people are missiling towards you. Like, that is a special level of what's going on in your head. He loves returning punts. Like, that is a thing from everything I can tell between talking to DB and like being around him a little bit. Like, he seems to really, really enjoy that aspect of the game, and he's really good at it. That mentality and having another option back there, at least for punt returns, I think is where he will make his earliest impact. I don't know with where the defense is in terms of who they've got coming in, who they've got bringing back, how much of an impact he'll make as a true freshman on defense. Long term, totally agree with you, but that's why he wasn't a little bit that's why he wasn't a little bit higher on my list. My number 2, sorry, I went to the Super Bowl list for a second.
No, you're good. I was just going to say quickly, I just wanted to find that perfect balance of future and now, which is another reason why I elevated certain young guys on my list to kind of meet my standard.
So my number 3, another guy who's only going to be here for a year and so I obviously am only looking at his 1-year impact, is Micah Mazzccua, the transfer offensive lineman from Florida. The impact I think he gives you as a immediate starter. I know that, there's been some things said that he's got some work to do still, and I understand that. I expect him to be a starter day 1 in the fall camp and in game 1. He's a guy coming from the SEC that helps give you depth and talent in an offensive line that I think is going to need to take another step forward. I was really impressed with their progress last year with the additional depth and guys coming off red shirts and new guys coming in. I think their ability to take that next step from, hey, they're pretty good, a little beating expectations a little bit, to being an actual, hey, this is the strong point of our team. I think Micah Mazzccua needs to be a big factor in turning that into a strength for Nebraska. So I've got him at 3 on my list.
The other thing Mazzccua gives you is that ability to bridge the developing gap for some of the young offensive linemen that may need an extra year or an extra, off season of practices to really kind of get themselves ready for the college game. The Sam Sledges, the Gunnar Gatulas of the world,
even like
those guys,
Brickses.
And the Grant Brickses in his first season, like those guys need that extra set of practices, those extra set of reps. And we talked about maximizing reps yesterday. If you can maximize those young guys by having Mazzccua in as the starter right now, it will help in the long run. We talk about the long run here. That will help a ton in the long run. Mazzccua is 5 on my list. Going back to 3, it's Dante Dowdell. He provides a much needed spark to the running back room. He comes over from an impressive Oregon offense with a winning culture. And he finished his high school career with 5,300 rushing yards and 65 touchdowns. The reason I brought up high school is we didn't see really a lot of him in college last season. But if he can, just branch off of that high school career, that tremendous high school career that we saw, you're going to see not only a guy that provides you a much needed spark in the offense, like I said, but depth, and he's been healthy most of his career. And I think that's something to take note of too, because the running back room at Nebraska hasn't stayed healthy. He brings a body size similar to Gabe Ervin. I'm not going to say he may have as much muscle mass as Ervin does,
but he's a big back.
But in terms of height and total size, he is a big back. And that's another thing that this Nebraska room was missing last year, because Emmett Johnson, remembers, only about 5'10".
Yeah, he's a small guy. And so is Quinn.
Right. If you can get a guy like 6'1", 6'2", that has a little meat on his bones, it gives you a different look, and that's what Dante Dowdell brings.
Yeah, I've got Dowdell at 4. Don't really have a ton to add from what you said there. He's a talented guy at a position of need, kind of a no-brainer there for me on the list, and he made the final list as well. I already talked about my number 5, Caleb Benning, so I don't feel like we need to rehash that. Your number 5 is Micah Mazzccua. Any other thoughts on him?
No, you know what? I sat pretty well there. My number 4, though, which is who we skipped over, Roger Gradney. Love his skill set. He's a Texas high school football kid. I know he's a small town product, but he's experienced at several positions across all 3 phases. He's got a good feel of the game regardless of alignment. He can provide a ton of versatility, and that's the type of player that Coach Rule loves.
All right, we've got a couple guys left. If we've got some time later, we will wrap up our Husker Super 6 list and our explanations on them. But coming up next, we've got Damon Benning here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-City. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Joining us now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline is our guy, Old DB, Damon Benning. What's up, buddy? DB, you there?
I'm here.
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I missed the whole. I don't know. Are we back?
We are back.
We're live. We're here.
We're back.
No. I understand that. I was joking. I was joking with you.
No, we're good. We're back.
I'm not that rusty. Jeez.
Whoa.
Well, listen, we're just out here previewing a Super Bowl and having a good time.
He's like, yeah, we're back. We're live. Don't say anything crazy. Don't worry, I won't. I won't.
Listen, you don't swear much anyway, so we usually don't have too many problems with you.
No. You might get an ASS out of me, but
I think you can say that on the air as long as you don't follow it with the specific part of that anatomy.
Oh, okay. Hat?
Yeah.
You don't want me to say hat?
Yeah, you can't say hat on the air.
Come on, man. The DB thing is fudge.
That's actually a pretty good DB. That was pretty good.
Hurrdat, you got to be tickled. You got 3 Bears and you got a Blues Blackhawks Winter Classic, man. Are you like tickled?
Man, I am, but like then I think about it and I'm like, golly, it's going to cost me a fortune to go to that Winter Classic.
So how far of a drive is, you probably drive, right? You're not afraid. St. Louis to Chicago. Your dad's done it, right?
Oh, all the time. Dude, that's like a 4.5 hour drive. That's cake.
That's not bad at all.
No, yeah, you do that in your sleep. That's like me going to like Ogallala. I'm in.
I meant more the ticket price to get into Wrigley.
Hey, listen, it's not too late to change your wedding registry. Ask for gifts in kind so you can buy a ticket.
That is such a good idea, man. That's a genius move.
Hey, I'm all about being practical, man. It beats regifting the 6th blender or the 15th toaster or, the magic vacuum seal that you'll use for your car that you won't take out but once a year, man. Get the cash.
Man, well, the good news is I know that you're coming. So if I get that blender, I'm going to be pissed.
Listen, it's only so I can see your parents. I mean, the heck with Ashley. I mean, that's it. I got to see the big 3. Me and your brother will go out and we'll leave you hanging, but we'll be all right.
It's all right. He'll take you to Helen Fitzgerald's. It's an Irish bar. I don't know how much of a dancer you are, but you'll go there.
You know me. I'll be in the corner. Is it dark in there? That's the only time I'm going to be seen.
They won't even know you're there.
Oh, you still got jokes.
DB loves hiding in a corner.
It's like we haven't skipped a beat.
Well, I was gonna say, DB and I, we had a practice run on this marriage thing, so we know the second time around, like, you just want cash.
Don't tell that to Ashley.
It's all about being efficient.
The first time I was like, I don't need 4 George Foreman grills. I don't need that. I think I got two Instapots. I was like, what's happening here?
It's crazy. My buddy came to patch a hole in the drywall. How I got there is a whole nother story. But so I was in the spare closet with the ceiling paint, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have a grill pan. I have a thing of silverware. What else did I see in there? It was odd. I'm like, God, I could regift that grill pan. People use it now. I see it on TikTok all the time.
Man,
I'm writing all this stuff down, by the way.
Yeah, because Andrew, if you get any of this stuff
have in your arsenal,
if you get any of this stuff from us, you know that we did not purchase it. This was it.
They'll be rummaging through his wedding stuff. He's like, God, I'm on my 13th Visa gift card. Like, what?
Dude, that's
which
the way
expires in like 24 months.
That's the way to go. DB, before we get too far down the rabbit hole, I know this was, you didn't participate in the Husker Super 6 this year. Your son did, ironically enough, in being one of the participants.
I'm disappointed, man. Schaefer just asked me to do a deal with him a couple days ago. I wonder why he conveniently left out Super 6. He's usually giving me a hard time about being the last to get my list in.
I think me and Andrew might have been the last ones to get our list.
Yeah, I took that role this year.
We both.
I'm glad I could rub off on you guys.
But so obviously, like outside of Dylan Raiola, who's kind of the obvious one, was there anybody on that list that either you were surprised didn't make it or surprised did make it?
Yeah, I mean, mine would be way different. Like, I would probably go, like, this is off the top of my head, so I may be missing one, but I would probably go Raiola, Buford, Bricks, Barney Jr., Gradney.
You can put Caleb at 6. It's fine.
Well, I know he made the list. I would have called him a sleeper.
Okay.
But let's say you put him at 6. I still have like 3 sleepers. I like Keelan Jones. I like or Keelan Smith. I like Donovan Jones, and I like Guthrie. Like, I think those guys are like true sleepers. Like, I mean, Caleb's going to get a lot of in-state love, and I think he had one national guy that really liked Caleb, so that's cool. And I know he made like the Big Ten promo, so I mean, whatever. But I don't like, if I had in a perfect world, he wouldn't play as a freshman. And since a lot of people don't think he's like over the top athletic anyway, he probably won't, which I chuckle about. But I would like for him to redshirt personally. Let him train because I think, you know, selfishly, everything else, he's like a human cheat code as a player. Like, he, you know, his IQ is really, really high. He's going to get concepts. He understands offenses. He definitely knows how to watch film. Like, he knows what he knows what he's looking for, and he's not easily distracted. So those are the things that I think make good can make good college players. The physical attributes will come. So I look at a guy like Gradney, like, why is he on my Super 6? I think he comes from a situation where he's not going to need a babysitter. I think he loves playing. I think he's a tough kid. I think he's mentally tough. Like, you guys know me long enough. Like, those are always key components. I think Buford is mentally tough. I think Bricks is mentally tough. I think Dylan Raiola has knows, I mean, contrary to popular belief, he's transferred this, that. I think he's mentally tough. Like, he comes from a stock in which he's not going to pull a 180 going away from his dad or his uncle's competitiveness. You know, his mom is tough. Like, so those are the guys that I kind of gravitated towards. Keelan Smith knows how to train. Donovan Jones knows how to work. Rex Guthrie is tough-minded. Like, those are the guys I went with, and I'm sure it's no disrespect to who was popular, like Carter Nelson and some of these other guys. Like, I know that's going to be a glaring omission off of my Super 6, but it's not personal. I'd rather be closer to try to be right than well-liked, so I didn't do the popularity thing.
Now, DB, you mentioned you'd like to see Caleb redshirt, but you'd probably like to see most of these guys redshirt, right?
Yeah, 100%. Especially if you're in the secondary.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they'll have a couple of corners. I think they'll have a corner spot or two available. Like, they'll play a young guy there. I'm pretty sure of that. So maybe that's why I used Buford. But I like Buford because I know he's a little undersized, but he's physically, I think he's fairly tough. He knows how to train, which is an underappreciated deal. Like, I can't tell you guys, like, after 20 years, I think why I have a feel for this is I'm focused on things that I think other people may not think about. Like, can you do the same thing 10, 11, 12 days in a row? Can you stay dialed in? Can you not have to have constant feedback? Can you go unattended or attended to and still feel your value? Like, those are like hidden things that I think really, really matter when you want to play big time athletics.
Man, okay. So the last one you said there got me. Can you go unattended to and still feel your value? Because that one is not just hard for athletes. That one's not just hard for college kids. That one's hard for everybody, right? Like
yeah,
that is
it's a lot of it is it's how you've been raised. It's the environment you've been in. It's how much is your self-worth been instilled in you. Like that's it's difficult, right? But though it's definitely a skill you can develop and kind of own in on. And so those are the things, and they're telltale signs, right? Like, there are definite telltale signs that you can look at, like underrated, like let's use Ashworth. Let's use a Blue Jays example, right? Off Malign, kind of the popular whipping boy early, like he stayed the course.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, look. Or, Hoiberg at Nebraska, it's, well, he's not this, he's not that, he doesn't look like this. And when it matters, like he flourishes. Like those are things. CJ Stroud. And you're like, dude, he was highly ranked. He's a 5-star. You hear people talk about his aptitude or the Ohio State quarterback jinx or having all these good receivers and being a product of like he couldn't care less, right? Like he just keeps playing. So I think that's like 85% of it. And being close to this football team down in Lincoln, I kind of I try to get a feel for. That's why I'm a big babysitter guy, right? Does or doesn't need a babysitter. Like those are things that ultimately I think are going to matter.
Well, we're talking to Damon Benning here on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline. What we're talking about here is really the ability to internally validate yourself, right? Like having that
right.
validation come from inside. And you could make the argument that that's one of the things Matt Rule is trying hardest to do. We talk about
it might be number one, Ravi. It might be number one.
I was going to say
you
that
matter,
or accountability, right? Like what's one of those two?
You matter. You belong. Let's go get this thing.
And
I listen.
When he's talking about like instilling confidence, that's what he's talking about, though, right?
100%. 100%. Like it ties into the things that he says when he's like, I'm riding with the guys that believed in us or believed in me before the finished product is out there, right? Like and he'll say this, make no mistake about it. We're going to win at a high level. Who's in before that? I understand the skepticism, young player, of are we going to win enough and the pressure and this, that, but do you value you enough to know that you're going to matter? Like how does that sit with you, young man? He didn't, oh, by the way, reference Mazuka needing to understand it's more than just football. Like that's going to matter when you're still setting the culture. Now his culture is way ahead of the game. Like I'm not, I wouldn't say shocked. I am, for a team that gave away games. I'm shocked that their sense of self-worth and belonging is as high as it is, which lets me know it's about things other than the end result. Like this team has become very process oriented, and I will see how many wins that yields, but it absolutely matters because you have to be secure in who you are. There's no other way to function at a high level than to be secure in who you are. It's why Iowa is Iowa, right? It's why Michigan settled into being Michigan. Well, they're not this, and they win close games, and they're like a bull constrictor. It's a slow squeeze. And like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's what we do. It's not flashy, but it's effective. So I think that matters.
Now, DB, if there was a Super Six for coaches, would Glenn Thomas be number one for developmental purposes of Dylan Raiola, the nearly unanimous number one in this Super Six?
Oh, I think he's going to be paramount. And how about, gosh, so the devil's in the details for some, but in others, it tells the message. Did you hear Coach Rule talk about the evolution? He was very descriptive. He talked about a Matt Ryan from a PJ Walker, right? So you get a range in talent and even aesthetics, even style of play. Then you sprinkle in a Charlie Brewer. And he told you all you need to know. When I told you he's constantly evaluating and never satisfied, when he said, with Sat, he's aggressive. He's aggressive in nature. So you can't always be like that with your quarterbacks.
Mm.
You remember he said that in the press?
Yeah.
Like he said it out loud.
Yeah.
He didn't use it as a negative. He spun it as, I'm going to play to his strengths, where he doesn't have to split time as an OC, where you have to balance that out. I'm going to get a guy that's good with young guys, that's good with old guys, and allow him to play to his strengths. If that isn't coaching development, I don't know what is. And he told it to you out loud. Zero guesswork. Zero. He gave you the blueprint.
DB, we want to switch gears here with you real quick. We mentioned earlier in the week that this will be Andrew's last day on the show. Still with Hurrdat Sports. Still will be doing a lot of stuff with the social media team. And, I think that left some people wondering what would be happening with the morning show. Would you like to share anything?
What is happening with the morning show?
I think I'm going to have a new co-host on Monday.
Yeah, it'll be good to be back. And I appreciate the opportunity. There's been a lot of self-reflection and growth in the meantime, and a multitude of areas, right? Just the own self-inventory and self-assessment. I do actually miss it, which I didn't think I was going to. I really did. Like the first, couple of months, and maybe that has a lot to do with guys like Dr. Stark and DJ Rizak and some of these guys that were invested early. My mom was key. I saw her about every 3 mornings, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you need to go to the store. You need to go pick up prescriptions. Just understanding, being well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to be everything to everybody else, just trying to figure out how I can continue to function at a high level. Recruiting's over and I'm not scrambling trying to, keep my family on an even emotional keel. And I am excited to come back and hopefully we can pick up where we left off. I'm super proud of Andrew. Just his ability to evolve and adapt and be super transparent as a young guy, I think is incredibly difficult. And I think his versatility and being selfless will serve him well. He's very other-centered, and not to talk about you like you're not here, Andrew. I know you are.
It means the world to hear that from you, man.
I'm well aware, but you may take those skills for granted, and because it's just part of who you've been raised to be. But it is definitely going to serve you well. So I'm extremely appreciative, and I can go back to beating up on Ravi for a little bit, and we can talk. We can talk generational talents and
do people still bring that up to me?
Generational talent. You no longer have to talk about Kirk Cousins being a trash quarterback.
We've all been there, right? I mean, we've had some Kirk Cousins discussions and with me and AR-15. And wait, can I forget it?
You can say it. You can say it.
I'm saying AR-15. You guys are gonna have to be mad at me. Maybe, gonna have to get rid of me, but yeah, I just I'm pretty excited to make it happen for folks.
So the headline there is Damon will be back on Monday. It will be Damon and I moving forward as Andrew transitions into a another role here at Hurrdat Sports. I do want to say, kind of to echo what DB said about AR here, there very well might not be a morning show for DB to come back to, if not for the work that Andrew Rogers.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like, he helped us keep this thing afloat and alive and thriving.
And it was tough.
Yeah, it was a challenging situation for everybody involved, and so yeah, I appreciate so much what Andrew's done. Getting thrown back into a 5 a.m. wake up every day is not the easiest thing in the world.
What do you mean? I love it. I love it.
When you're not,
I got to tell you. I really appreciate the kind words from you both, and I don't want to get all soft, but I mean, you two have been such a good mentors and role models for me in this process as well. But I tell people this all the time. Every morning I hate getting up at 5 a.m. I do, but you remind yourself that you're working your dream job.
Yeah.
And that's how you get through it. Like, you may be cursing, your way to the car door in the morning, but once you get there, it's just like, man, I remember why I love doing this and why I'm here. DB, I got to ask one more thing before we let you go for today. Because Scary Gary asked this middle of the segment, and it was when we were talking about the Super Six and leaving Carter Nelson off the list. I also left Carter Nelson off the list, and the reason I did was I'm unsure about the transition from 8-man to 11-man in the college game. That's just what I've seen based on covering high school in Iowa in my short time. So that's why I left a little bit of wonder out in the air. Why did you leave him off your list?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I'm not sure where he's going to play. And I know most people use that as a positive, and it's fine, right? Like, obviously being pro Nebraska, on the network, and I want Nebraska to be good, and I definitely want him to flourish. But I'm not sure I don't think he can be an inline tight end. Is he going to be dynamic enough off the outside? How is he going to handle coverage, read coverage? I just don't think you can throw him jump balls early. And I look at, this is crazy, but I look at the transition that Malachi Coleman had to make and what it took for that, even to get the opportunity, right? Like, some things had to fall in place. He had to stay with it. There was the learning curve. You have to be physically gifted enough. I think, in this offense, it's a little more difficult for wide receivers from a concept standpoint, and for sure tight ends than I think people think. So I think the level of physicality, the rigor that I think he's going to have to put his body through in terms of his comp, because there's a lot for guys to touch. He's very angular and he's very lean. And so when you've been the biggest, baddest guy, I think sometimes that can be an adjustment period. And I'm not telling you anything that I think people don't know. I just felt like from a impact and talent standpoint, I feel safe with my 6.
DB, we're going to have to work on those hard outs again.
Yeah, welcome back to Hard Outs.
I will see you on Monday, buddy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. AR, you're still the man.
My man, dude. I appreciate you.
Matt Vrzal coming up on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Joining us now, a little bit different than his normal spot at wrapping up the show, but Matt Vrzal was very flexible with us, and we appreciate it. Verz, how are you this morning?
Oh, not bad. How are you fellas doing?
Good, Verz. Good to hear your voice, man.
Verz, what we've been talking a lot about obviously the Super Bowl this morning. We've been talking about some of the Super Six and stuff like that. I'm curious. I know you're not a big hype guy, so I wonder how much you pay attention to things like Super Six, where people are trying to prognosticate, and myself included. I'm not hating. But I guess how much stock do you put in trying to figure out who may or may not be impactful this year out of the newcomers?
Oh, I don't even know. I've never heard of the Super Six, so I don't even know what that is.
Oh, so basically,
I don't read the newspaper.
No worries. Basically, the Husker 24/7 basically just polls a bunch of media members and asks them who they think the 6 most impactful newcomers will be in the upcoming football season. And so it's a off-season exercise, to be sure. But I'm just curious if there's anybody that you're particularly looking forward to seeing in a Husker uniform that wasn't last year.
I mean, your obvious answer is the Raiola kid.
Sure.
But after that, like, I don't even know. Who are they asking to do this? Like who picks these people? Like that to me would be how much merit I put into it. Like if I value their opinion.
Sure.
If I don't value their opinion, I probably wouldn't put much into it. But from my aspect, I don't think. I would say the kid from Oregon, the running back, and the Raiola kid. The Raiola kid would be like my main two. The rest of them, I think, probably have some development-wise things to go.
Verz, stay with Raiola here for a moment, and I want you to, because, I've been pondering this. I was listening to Glenn Thomas last week, and there were a couple things I took away from his interview on the radio that helped me gauge his coaching style. But until we actually see it, it's all just optimism, right? So to give your vote of confidence in Thomas and Raiola and some of the other pieces in the room, what do you hope we see by like game 3 or 4 from that quarterback position?
Well, I think coaches are a lot easier to evaluate in that way because you can look up successes that Thomas has had or people that, basically vouch for him. I mean, I don't know if there's any Falcon fans that listen to this show, but Matt Ryan had really good success with him as the main kind of quarterback coach type guy. So that's one thing I think translates really easy. For a young guy to go in, and it's going to be probably more than anything like his presence on the field. So is he able to command respect in the huddle, or is he having to wrangle guys and say, get over here, do this? Does he know those things? Like, and some people it's just ingrained in them. Keith Frazier came to campus and took about 3 games to learn what he was doing, and then away it went. So real quick into it when you meet the person if they're that guy. And so it isn't necessarily going to be that he's thrown for 6 touchdowns or he has no interceptions or he doesn't drop snaps or fumble the ball. It's kind of just going to be that presence of, hey, when he gets in the huddle, is everybody paying attention? Or when when they score a touchdown, are they all running to celebrate together, or are they not including it? Like little things like that. It's not. And not many will see it, and then there's morons out there that will poo-poo body language or, those kind of things. They don't understand games. But you just kind of watch how he carries himself more than anything like X's and O's wise.
We're talking with Matt Vrzal. He is a former Husker owner of Pison's Pizzeria. Verz, we were just talking to DB a minute ago, and he said a lot of the things that he looks for in early contributors is a lot more of kind of the mental the mental toughness, their ability to not need to be babysat, things like that. You were kind of touching on some of the body language and mentality stuff there. Kind of in your experience or from what you've seen, what are a couple of the traits, whether physical or mental or emotional, whatever, that you think translate the best to earliest success for new guys?
So you're talking obviously on top of talent.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to have a bare minimum level of talent, right? Yeah.
Eye contact.
That's a
body language, and there's a couple of videos that pop up all the time on either TikTok or Twitter. But Cristobal got after one of their receivers pretty good, or maybe it was a defensive back if they had done something stupid in the game. I mean, he lights him up like a Christmas tree, but the kid maintains eye contact. He doesn't. And probably more important, like reaction when you turn around, because it's if I'm getting after you and we're eye to eye on something and you're looking at me, I'm good with that. Mm-hmm. But when I turn around, do you flip me off? Do you put your hands up? Does your head go down? Do those kind of things? Like basically, it's just being a man. Like everybody has caught an ass chewing. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that? How do you get over that? And I think it's one of the greater telltale signs of how you were raised. Because if you can get after somebody and they maintain eye contact and they don't necessarily have to go yes sir, no sir, but they say, yep, got it. And then when you turn around, do they do something like stupid? Because then you tell those parents didn't do it right. They let them talk crazy and didn't beat them. And so, yeah, the eye contact thing would be a big one for me.
That really stuck out to me when you said it, because I just think about moments of respect there. And it also shows the character of the person. So And I think a lot of people just kind of like look past that when they evaluate, like at least the general public, when they evaluate a player's talent, because all they look at that person is their traits and their skill sets and what they see on film. But it's all that stuff behind the scenes that really dictates who they're going to be and what type of teammate they're going to be when they actually get into the room.
Yeah, it's how they were raised. Were you raised respectfully, or are you a spoiled piece of crap? I mean, it's and you know within minutes. You have a conversation with anybody or a kid or an adult. You have with adults. Now, in the situation of the kid in the correction, he knows he's wrong. And it's like anything. And here, I will correct very nicely a bad behavior once.
Mm-hmm.
Twice is going to be a problem. Third time is going to be the door. So I'm not saying you flap the hand right away and start screaming and yelling at people and make them maintain eye contact, but when you understand, like, hey, we can't have you have that behavior, it's detrimental to the team, like those were things taught by all of my coaches and all of my teachers as I was growing up. Like, eye contact is not a struggle for me. And I've caught an ass chewing from many a coach. Like I said, my high school coach for my first 2 years in high school was junior high, or high school was 10 through 12 in Grand Island. My name was Fat Kid. And so if I screwed up and he said, hey, Fat Kid, get your fat ass over here, then you went over there. And you looked him in the eye and you got your correction. He said, it will never happen again. He's like, you better not. And that wasn't a threat. That was a promise. So that just, I think early on in the kids' upbringing, and a lot of the kids that get like good recruiting offers, it's because they do kind of things like that. I mean, Maxby had the Texans GM on. And they were talking to him. He's like, they're athletic. That's why they're here. Like, you've made it to Nebraska on your athleticism. What kind of human being are you? And then when you start to get a bunch of good human beings, then the rest of the BS is easy. So,
Verz, really good stuff there. Real quick, got about 30 seconds left. Do you have any quick thoughts or picks on how you think the Super Bowl is going to go?
If anybody can find me a prop, let me know. Christian McCaffrey to throw a touchdown pass. I would like to put some money on that.
Oh, interesting.
You're talking to the right guy.
I hate Kansas City almost as much as I hate St. Louis. So
Hey.
the only thing good to come out of Kansas City is the Gordons, and they all wise up and move back. So I will take the Niners. Former home of Grand Island's own Tom Rathman.
There we go. It's always a Husker connection. Verz, we appreciate you being flexible on time. We appreciate you joining us as always. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it.
Bye, Verz.
That is Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. Coming up next, we'll get back deep into Super Bowl preview mode with Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Andrew Rogers here with me. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We are joined now on the Warhorse Sportsbook Hotline by Cynthia Frelund of the NFL Network. Cynthia, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good. My voice is already a little Vegas.
Oh no! Oh no! It's the game hasn't even happened yet. We're in trouble here.
I mean, I came with a little bit of a cold, so I'm like, oh no, we're good. We can do it.
Well, we appreciate you fighting through, playing through injury here a little bit. We appreciate that as always. So I got to ask right off the bat, I'm a 49ers fan. I know you've already run the numbers on this. What are your analytics models and everything telling you about how the game's going to go on Sunday?
Oh, well, I started off with the 49ers fan bit, so I'm a little worried, but
it's okay. No, you can just be honest with me. I can take it.
I have a 2-point win for the Chiefs, so that's not a very significant number. It's not like 7 points or something crazy, but I do have the Chiefs taking this one, but not by a lot. And I certainly would be surprised if it went the other way.
Okay, Cynthia, I can live with that. I'll be okay.
Cynthia, I've been thinking about this a ton lately, wondering how Kyle Shanahan needs to coach this game in order to outsmart Andy Reid, but also find that balance of not trying to overdo it. How significant do you think coaching is in determining the outcome of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think this is a really, really big matchup. We've seen some of the interesting stats on the end of games for Kyle Shanahan, and if the 49ers want to win this one, at the end of the game, Kyle Shanahan, especially, if they have a lead, needs to be very judicious about the time management for sure. But I think in general, the coaching, a lot of it has to do, the coordinators, and not just Kyle Shanahan versus Andy Reid, but also Steve Wilks versus Andy Reid, or Steve Spagnuolo versus Kyle Shanahan, because both coaches are known for their offensive play calling. So you got to remember the coordinators here factor in a bunch as well.
Cynthia, I'm glad you brought up Steve Wilks, because that's a guy I've been paying a ton of attention to, especially throughout this playoff run where the 49ers defense, despite all their talent, hasn't looked, I think, up to their capabilities what are some of the things you're going to be looking for early to indicate that maybe San Francisco has been able to course correct some of those issues that we saw, especially that rush defense against Detroit?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the Chiefs scored on their opening drive in every opening drive in the playoffs. I know that's not very many games, but you remember in the playoffs that these are the best teams, right? So that's going to be the first thing. And then you have to remember the scripted plays for both the first 15 of the first half, and there's such a long halftime that the first 15 plays are scripted in the second half too. So how they open drives both ways, if they can adapt the defense to figure out the different ways that they can take away options for Patrick Mahomes, including Patrick Mahomes scrambling, that's going to be if the defensive game plan has been something that matches what the Chiefs are able to bring to the table.
Cynthia, is winning the Super Bowl the only way for Brock Purdy to get national validation, or should he already have it?
It's insane to me that it's like this big of a debate. I'm like, what? Like, he's played, first of all, people, he's a second year, I don't care where he was drafted. He's a second season player. In general, you don't look the way he's led the league in 10 plus air yard attempts the entire season. Like, this includes the postseason. So it's not just like a short amount of time. It's the most data we have the whole season. The highest completion percentage on 10 plus air yard passes belongs to Brock Purdy. There's a number of other things. Highest EPA per drop back, which is expected points added, Brock Purdy. It's not a question. I'm not pretending he's Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes could very well be the best quarterback we've seen in our lifetime, but I'm not pretending that he's not anything other than, he's probably, let's be conservative, top 8 quarterback, top 7 quarterback on the entire season.
Cynthia, it's interesting you mentioned that. We're talking to Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network, because I think there's kind of two camps on the Brock Purdy thing. And it's the people that, you dove into some numbers there that were Brock Purdy's super impressive. And then I think there's people that can't get over kind of just how he looks in the physical attributes. Like, how much do you think that plays into, even outside of the draft position? But he doesn't look like Trevor Lawrence, right? He doesn't look like that, like a Anthony Richardson or a Josh Allen, right? He doesn't look like that guy, but the numbers tell you, and the people that follow the numbers tell you just how good he's been. How much of that do you think is a factor in the way he's perceived?
I guess I just think people don't like being wrong. And the fact that he was drafted very low.
Fair.
Yeah. So, like, they're just looking for justification. Like, sometimes you just got to admit, hey, we got this. I'm going to take the L here, and I'm wrong. I think it's more that. I mean, because the other thing that I look at, which is a very telling thing, is demeanor pregame. And Brock Purdy has stone cold killer demeanor pregame. He's not anxious. You can talk to him about what's his favorite music. Like, I don't think people should do that, but I've seen them ask him stupid stuff like that pregame. And he is cool, calm, collected, the whole thing. He can't get rattled. So, I mean, that's the type of demeanor I want. He never looks nervous. Like, maybe he looks like Boy Next Door and he looks young, but he is very chill.
Cynthia, as a data-driven analyst, how do you navigate the balance between statistical insights and the intangible factors that can influence the outcome of a high-stakes game like this one?
Analytics are a framework. So what you put on your framework, like, you and I can have the same car. The chassis is the same, right? If I paint my car red and you paint your car, like black or whatever, it's going to be your decision how you want it to ultimately turn out. So to me, having a framework to make better decisions, or the knowledge that you're making a low probability decision, but that's your decision to do, that is what it's doing. It's not telling you to do anything. There's no instructive moment where there's this buttons that's sort of like analytics mode. We must do whatever the numbers say. It's not like it's all about, like, just having in every single person's career, when you're making a should we devote our resources to making this dinner on the menu, or should we have more items on the menu? It's opportunity. All of life is opportunity cost, but sometimes you have to take what feels like a lower probability decision because that feels like the right one.
Cynthia, I'm interested in your kind of perspective on players outside of that quarterback position. We've talked a lot about Brock Purdy. We talked a little bit about Patrick Mahomes. Who outside of that quarterback spot are you looking at as somebody that could have an outsized impact on the game?
Well, you kind of brought it up before when you were talking about how we saw the Lions and the Packers really run on the Niners defense. The trenches to me are always where everything starts. And if Isaiah Pacheco can be impactful in this game, or maybe even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like one of the running backs, I'm saying Pacheco because we've seen him with the most volume lately, if they can be impactful, especially on first down, you know that will help figure out any of the, Nick Bosa said it. Sometimes they hold a lot. I think that was his quote. And it's not wrong, but all offensive linemen hold a lot. It's across the league. It's a very tricky call very often, right? So to me, if the run game, we know the run game is going to work for the Niners. So if the run game can really get working for Andy Reid, that's how that spread offense really just works the best.
It's interesting you brought up the running backs here because I was thinking who you predict to have a bigger stat line on Sunday. McCaffrey, who's shown to be the best back in the league against all teams, or Pacheco against a defense that's given up 159 rush yards per game.
Well, this is where the stats and the what drives games is different because I think Christian McCaffrey will have a very healthy stat line, like best odds to score a touchdown the whole bit. But when I'm looking at those, like maybe 4 yards on first down is actually a little bit more helpful in eating up enough of the clock and then giving Patrick Mahomes a chance to have a little bit, some of his receivers get some separation because third down is in this obvious passing situation. Perhaps that's what impacts the game more because we know Christian McCaffrey is going to be he's going to be a monster. I'm like, look out.
Cynthia, about a minute and a half left here with you. All right, so you kind of hit me in the feels on the front end and by saying that the Chiefs were 2-point winners in your model. But so make me feel a little bit better on the back end here. What is the path to victory for the 49ers if they are able to pull it off?
I told you that I love the trenches and offensive line play is where I start. If the right side of that offensive line can stay protecting Brock Purdy and giving them the configurations that they need, like that is the key to victory for the Niners. They use a compressed formation. They're the tightest bunch together in the league this year. And if they can nullify any of the pass rush that the Chiefs are bringing, that will be a game changer because we know that at 6.7 yards after the catch per reception, the Niners lead the league in that metric, which means they've got to get themselves just a little bit of open space to do that, which means they need to buy some time for Brock Purdy. So the right side of the O-line needs to stay intact just long enough for Purdy to do some of that dicing up we've seen him do so well.
That's Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network, and we'll let you go just a little bit earlier. Save that voice up. You still got a couple more days to go. You power through. We appreciate your time as always, Cynthia.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cynthia.
That's Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Real quick, before we hop into hour number 3, want to remind you about our friends at the Omaha Supernovas. Get over to supernovas.com to check out merchandise schedule. Get your tickets there as well. The Supernova will be back in town on the 18th. That's a week from Super Bowl Sunday. Make sure you get out there and support Omaha's professional volleyball franchise. Go to supernovas.com. Coming up next, Mike Sautter here in studio on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Mike Sautter.
I would agree, Damon.
Mike Sautter.
Yeah.
Mike Sautter.
Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Mike Sautter.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me. Before we get to Mike Sautter, want to tell you about our friends at the Team Jack Foundation. They're currently funding 13 projects and collaborating with national institutions such as Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and Columbia University. Of course, one of their largest projects to date has been right here with the University of Nebraska Medical Center and the creation of the Nebraska Childhood Brain Tumor Program. The focus of Team Jack Foundation is finding better treatments for kids fighting brain cancer and one day a cure. They've raised over $12 million and counting to date, and they are trying to find treatments that are less toxic for children with brain tumors. Even when those kids survive, they often have lifelong issues because of the outdated and highly toxic treatments that are continued to be used. That's why it's so important to support Team Jack. If you want to get involved, go to teamjackfoundation.org. You can donate directly from the webpage. You can find the events that they've got coming up, get all the information about the projects they're working with and what they're doing with that money. TeamJackFoundation.org for more information. Joining us now, he's not on the Warhorse Sportsbook hotline. He's live here in person, is Mike Sautter, our very own Hurrdat Sports chief basketball correspondent. Senior basketball analyst?
Sure.
All right, that'll work. Senior basketball analyst Mike Sautter. How are you, bud?
Well, I'm feeling like a pirate with a peg leg made of gold today. So
I don't even know what that means.
Can we call you the CEO of Hurrdat Sports basketball coverage?
Sure.
Yeah, all right.
We'll call him the CBO, the chief basketball operator.
Ooh, the CBO.
I like it. I like it. So you were out.
Could be like Michael Bublé feeling good too today.
Yes, you were singing before we got on the air. We can't sing on the air because
we just haven't got there yet.
the more like like I'm gonna walk around, with a little limp, like I'm a pirate with a peg leg made of gold.
Is that because the gimpy knee or what's?
No, just tired.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You've got a busy schedule this weekend, but last night you were out at Auburn for Auburn and Lincoln Lutheran. What are we laughing at?
Andrew lost it.
You all right?
This dude is tired, and that's why he's walking with a peg leg.
I don't know, man.
Peg leg, like a pirate with a peg leg made of gold. It's a little different swagger.
I mean, geez, just get you some Monarchs or something. Put those on your feet. Why don't you? Get rid of your really fashionable style and shoes and just get the old man Monarchs and just go to work.
No,
he's not. He's going to be in the nursing home with his Ultra Boost. You know that. He's going to be walking around. He's going to be doing his fit checks. So we'll have the cardigan and be like, oh, cardigan, we got to get the Ultra Boost that match the corduroy pants and my cardigan. There we go.
That's fine.
And that'll be just 3 or 4 short years from now, Andrew. No.
Ravi coming out strong.
Listen, there's only 2 people on the team that I can make old jokes with, and Sauter's one of them. The rest of them, I'm the old guy, so I got to take my shots.
The oldest.
I got to take my shots where I can.
I am the oldest member of our team of people that work here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all right, though. You've got the most youthful attitude.
That's fine. That's good.
I don't know about that, but he's
you are 12, so
that's cool. That's cool.
I'm
still on my parents' insurance if I'm 12.
Are you serious?
No, I said if I'm 12.
I was
listen, no judgment. I stayed on my parents' insurance as long as I legally could.
I mean, if you're, what is it? 24 is the cutoff?
I think it's 26 now.
You could be, Andrew.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, 26 is 25? No, 26. 26 is the cutoff.
Yeah, so you could have been on for another,
And I was. Yeah, I was very fortunate to still be on.
There you go.
Andrew, you're the reason nightmares are afraid of the dark.
Mike Sautter, you're the reason I left Omaha.
Fine.
Don't know what's happening here. Auburn and Lincoln Lutheran play a basketball game.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Last night. This is good. A good time.
Auburn, very good at basketball.
Auburn, very good. Hey, they scored 62 points, and they're averaged over 60 a game.
Yeah.
So, for all you hold the ball people, they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
They're just such a well-coached team.
They are. It is. I am telling you, and I told Coach Weeks this after, and obviously him and I have a relationship, but it is. I enjoy watching their teams play so much because they don't just get a good shot; they get a great shot 9 times out of 10. And they guard you for 35 seconds, or they force you to take really bad shots. So, they are so well coached. It is 2-hand passes, 2-hand catches. It is unbelievable. He is a really good high school basketball coach, and probably for my money, the best high school basketball coach in the state. He is so good, and his sons are helping, and Trey Bardsley's out there helping. It's just it is a very well-oiled machine, and they're unbeaten, and that was a tough test for them. Lincoln Lutheran in our coaches poll is ranked number 1 in C2, and that happened after beating Ashland Greenwood, who's number 2 in C1, and Auburn is number 1 in C1 and handled Lincoln Lutheran last night. I mean, it was close early, but it really wasn't after that. Maverick Binder was really good, and Nixon Liguori was really good for them last night. So, Maverick Binder's a senior now, and I mean, he was an all-state caliber player as a sophomore, and shot it really well last night in the second half. Or the third quarter, they had 4 threes and kind of just opened things up, and it's basically over from there.
Sautter, before we get into the Super Six, before I ask you one question about the Super Bowl, I want to stay with high school here, and we'll stay in A because we've been mentioning for the last couple of weeks that Bell West and Millard North are still extending their gap in the Class A rankings. But who have you liked on the climb behind them?
Westside continues to be really kind of right in that mix. They have been all year, despite 4 losses. Southeast is coming. I mean, they're 19-5 right now. They're really coming on strong here, and I think Prep will be fine. They suffered a couple losses. Gretna's coming. Gretna's got a few nice wins. They hammered Omaha Bryan on Tuesday night. I mean, just dismantled them. It was unbelievable. And then Pius has played really well. So you might get 2 Lincoln teams. There's a chance you get 2 Lincoln teams hosting a district or being the 1 seed in the district. So that's something. Kearney's playing well too. Kearney has a chance to maybe sneak into hosting a district. And that's one where you don't want to go there.
Yeah, nobody wants to be in that district.
Yeah, like not just the travel part, just the gym. It's hard to play.
Yeah,
in.
no,
It's
it's
loud.
a tough place to play.
I mean, the environment part is really hard, and Ben Johnson is really good. So I would say those guys, to answer your question, have been really playing well. It's kind of that 4 to 9 in wild card points right now. But any one of those have played well. Papio South got Reese Kircher back, their starting point guard. So they got him back for at least a little bit. So that'll be, they're feeling better about it. He's so key to what they do. They don't really have anyone else that can run the team and handle the ball like that, because Bryson Ball, for as good as he is, that's just not who he is, and you want him off the ball. So to answer your question in A, that's going to be be kind of fun next couple weeks here. You have 2 weeks left of the regular season, or 2 weekends. This weekend, and then next week is the last regular season week. So the district assignments will likely be out next Saturday night. So, or I guess we'll have a good idea by then.
So, Mike, I know that you went to Auburn last night because you've got a crazy busy weekend, so you needed to get your game of the week kind of a little bit earlier. But some of the games that you will not be attending this weekend, but who's got a good slate, or where are the good games this week in high school?
The Heartland Hoops Classic is in Grand Island on tomorrow, Saturday, and the highlight of that is Bellevue West plays Sunrise Christian, and Sunrise is not the same as they were.
Juggernaut they used to be.
Their coaching changed, so stuff changed. It was a little later, in the process too. So that is definitely it's still going to be a good game. Westside was supposed to play Denver East. Denver East ended up backing out for let's just say they ended up backing out.
Unclear reasons.
No,
pretty clear.
They gave a reason, but I don't know if it jives.
Okay.
So just my opinion on that. Omaha North, Omaha Central is tomorrow at 3:45. Omaha North at Omaha Central. That is a big game, boys game. That's a big game. One, it's a pretty big rivalry now. 2, Delron Thomas transferred from North to Central. They played earlier in the year, I believe, in the OPS Jamboree, if I remember right. So and Central beat them. That was the first week of the year. It was so long ago. So, but that one will be that'll be interesting. And then Class B tonight, Elkhorn and Scott is a big game because Scott just beat Norris on Tuesday night. I was there, and Scott played. Brock Scholl has been playing so well for Scott this year, and that's the second time I've seen them in about a week and a half or two. And he was awesome against Norris the other night, and they went to Norris and won. Scott did, so that's a tough one in it. So Elkhorn at Scott tonight on the boys' side, and then Norris travels to Elkhorn North tonight at 5:30, and the girls' game is another big one to the number 2 versus number 3 team in our coaches poll playing each other, and then the boys' game should be pretty good too with Norris and Elkhorn North. So if you like to go to a dungeon with no cell service for a basketball game, go to Elkhorn North tonight. You can check out that. So
that was always the worst, man. Whenever I would cover games in Sioux City and I'd have to send footage back, going to places like that with no Wi-Fi or no service at all, because you'd have like your little I don't know, what do they call them? MiFis that you carry with you. And if there's no cell service, I mean, man, you're driving town to town just to try to get a better signal.
Yeah, Elkhorn North is it's just so new out there, and they built it as a pit. So there just isn't enough infrastructure built up around it, I guess, for cell towers and stuff, even though you can see a cell tower like right by it. But yeah, it's just one of those places that you just know what you're getting into before you attend, so it's fine. But yeah, it's good. And then I'll be at the Heartland Hoops Classic in the morning tomorrow, or the first 2 games. The schedules, they usually do 8 games, but this year I think they only have 6, so it starts at 11, which is a little different. So Grand Island Central Catholic and Elkhorn Valley play at 11. And then a good one at 12:45 if everybody's healthy. Omaha Concordia and Donovan Trumbull. So 2 ranked C1 teams. Donovan Trumbull, Poppy has been out with a foot, ankle, something for them. Their point guard, who's a nice player. So if he plays, that changes things. And then Crete Ogallala is after that. Crete is unbeaten in B and the number 1 team in B, and clearly, but they suffered an injury with one of their guards, a season-ending injury. And Ogallala's playing well. They only have 2 losses. Then Papio South and Kearney is one at 4:15. That's a big wild card point game. And then 6 is Pembroke Hill versus Gretna. Pembroke Hill from like Kansas City area is playing Gretna at 6, and then 7:45 is that Sunrise Bell West game in Grand Island.
So you're going for the first half of the day out in Grand Island.
Yeah, I'll be there for the first 2 games tomorrow.
The second part of the day, you're heading back to Lincoln for Nebraska and Michigan, which is a huge opportunity for Nebraska because, as you said, they don't. So here's the problem: it's a two-edged sword here for Nebraska on the way out. Right, winnable games for sure. Not a lot of excusable losses.
No,
in terms of who they've got left, right? There's not a lot of games that you look at and be like, oh, if they're going to be on the right side of the bubble, makes sense, or it's okay if they lose that game. Set up to stacks and victories if they're able to play well, but they're looking down the barrel at Michigan, Penn State, Indiana, Minnesota, Ohio State, Rutgers, and then Michigan again. None of those teams outside of, I believe, I don't think any of those teams are in the top 50 of the net rankings currently. A lot of them are in that 80 to 100 range. These are not games that Nebraska can afford to lose, especially at home.
Yeah, they 3 left at home. Wait, is that right?
4.
Yeah, 4 left at home. You got to go 4-3 somehow in this 7.
I mean, minimum.
Yeah. I mean,
if you don't go 4-3, you
got to get to 20 wins. There's no way they're not getting in if they don't get to 20.
Yeah,
especially with this end of the schedule. I will say one of their sound like a homer here, but one of the things is, I mean, this last week and a half has been pretty brutal. One, teams they played, 2 of those games were overtime games, and then you have back-to-back overtime games, and then they came back home, and then they went to Northwestern. So you had 2 road games in a row there. Throw in Wisconsin, who was number 6 at the time, and I think Nebraska broke Wisconsin. Actually,
It seems like they may have, yeah.
Something.
The wheels have started to fall off. A little bit for Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's wild losing to Michigan. If you're Wisconsin,
it's bad, real
not
bad.
Good. But after Saturday, they have that bye week, like in the middle of the week where they don't have a game. That's what's called bye week. So Saturday to Saturday games. They're the last team in the Big Ten to have that bye week. So they need, I think,
good
they need a
timing
little
for them.
bit of a rest.
Yeah, good timing for them.
They got get through tomorrow, beat Michigan, because Michigan, doesn't have their second best player traveling on the road still suspended for the 6 games or whatever. And so that's huge. It changes a ton. So got to get through tomorrow, get that win, and then Penn State's playing better. Like they're
playing better.
Like they're playing better. So you got to beat them. And then can you win
any road games
at Indiana
at all?
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's where we're at. Can they win any road games at all?
Right.
Will Indiana by then, in a week and a half, will they just be done? Right? Will they just be like, whatever?
Yeah.
Well, at Ohio State is currently last in the league.
And the wheels had
totally fallen off there.
Yes.
Yeah. So like that one is a, look at, and then at Michigan is an 11 a.m. game on a Sunday. And it's 11 a.m. and Michigan just beat Wisconsin at Michigan, and they will have their second best player. So best or second best player playing in that game. So is senior night versus Rutgers the one where you're like just a bad matchup for them? But Rutgers is not good on the road either.
No.
Minnesota, for as bad as everyone, including me, thought they were at the beginning of the season, before the league play started, as bad as they were projected to be, they're actually playing pretty well and
they're
getting better.
They're okay. Yeah.
That game's not a layup.
Not great, but they're okay.
Yeah. They're what, six wins in the league, I think. So
yeah.
They're right there in the mix. I mean, it's I don't know if Nebraska can get the double bye, but they certainly can get a bye.
Gotta get a single bye. I mean,
yeah,
you got to.
Yeah. It just because you just don't want to play that Wednesday game.
Well, you end up in a real bad spot because if you are playing the Wednesday game, even if your resume looks good besides that,
still doesn't look great.
Losing the Wednesday game,
you'd be done.
Almost automatically pushes you off the bubble. Like we saw that. What was it, 2018?
Yeah. Yep.
Almost the exact same thing happened, right?
They just needed a 1 win in the tournament.
Yes, and had they gotten the bye, they probably didn't need that win.
How about just don't get to the point where you need to win, where you have to win that game. Just go, 4-3 or 5-2.
I think you got to go 5-2 to avoid needing.
They could go 5-2 with the remaining schedule.
Easily. I think they could easily go 6-1 with the remaining schedule. I think 7-0 is too much to ask because 7-game winning streaks are difficult to come by at any time.
College basketball,
but 6-1 I think is really reasonable with the schedule.
At Indiana is going to be a little tough.
Yeah.
Like it's just a tough place.
I mean, Ken Palm's got that a coin flip game right now, but they've got Nebraska on the right side of it. I mean, I know I go to Ken Palm all the time, but he's got them going 6-1 on the way out in terms of now there's a couple coin flip games in there.
Very doable.
There's 3 coin flip games in there. So if those go the other way, obviously things could swing for them. But I do think it's a manageable thing to do what they need to. The question is, will they do what they need to?
Yeah. Just the way they played against Northwestern, just coming out so flat.
It's a little horrifying. It's scary moving forward.
Yeah, you're like, oof. We'll find out today. I mean, there's media availability today. I'll be interested to see what Hoiberg's kind of response was to how they've practiced yesterday. He said they were going to practice late yesterday, and then obviously practice today, but see how healthy they are, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, Eli Rice is the only, contributor that's been out, but he's not like, it's not like Rink Mass.
Yeah. Right.
So it's a little different there. It's got to beat Michigan. They're 8-15. You got to beat Michigan. I don't care.
You got to beat the teams while they're down. You got to beat the Michigans while they're down. You got to beat the Ohio States while they're down. You have to beat those teams.
Yeah, and you got to, communicate on a simple flare screen, which they did not do on Wednesday nights, particularly in the first half. Like, that's just basic stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's like week one.
It's
practice
you
stuff.
Just talk it.
Yeah.
We're talking college, high school or whatever. High school, you even supposed to talk, but like at that level, you gotta. They just didn't play well. They came out flat. That's it. Jamarcus Lawrence coming off the bench. Well, he was like him and Juwan Garrett were the only ones that were effective on Wednesday. I'll be interested to see if they go back to Lawrence starting and Gary back in the starting lineup, because he hasn't been starting since he came back from the injury.
Mm-hmm.
Injury plus one game. And then and so that, they like that big lineup against Illinois a lot, and then they went to it to start the game against Northwestern. It didn't work.
Go well.
So I wonder if Lawrence will be back, or you just have Lawrence be more off the ball and you have Bryce Williams, because Lawrence playing that kind of lead guard thing it was in a funk there for a minute. So it'd be interesting to see what they do there, what the starters look like. Just like Alec, it did not play good on Wednesday. So maybe he's back to coming off the bench in his original role, where they thought was going to be his role going into the season, just the energy. Guy off the bench. So him and Hoiberg off the bench with that energy would be nice.
Absolutely. That's Mike Sautter. He's not going to be sticking around with us because he's got to get on the road.
Yeah, I got to get going. I got stuff to do.
Too much to do today, but Andrew and I will jump back into some Super Bowl coverage coming up next. We're going to hit that Warhorse prop card that we've been talking about all month and give some of our picks there. Mike, we appreciate your time as always.
Hey, Andrew, good seeing you, my man.
Hey, see you, buddy.
I appreciate you.
Hey, I love you, man.
All right.
More Hurrdat Sports coming up next.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me, and we are going to do a little modified Warhorse Sportsbook sports cleanup here because it is Super Bowl week, and we've been talking to you all month about the prop card challenge, right? The $100,000 prop card challenge, $20,000 grand prize drawing as part of the Warhorse Festival of Games. You've got through tomorrow to get those picks on your prop card in and get those entries validated. If you need instructions on how to do that, go to warhorsecasino.com. They will have all the information you need. What I can tell you is you've got to be a Warhorse Rewards member, and you had to have gotten some entries before February 1st, but you can find out everything you need to know. warhorsecasino.com. You'll have to go to the casino in Lincoln to validate those entries. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. So for our cleanup today, we're going to go through some of the props that are on that card for the $100,000 prop card challenge. We are not eligible, A, because we didn't validate the entries yet, because Andrew pieced out to St. Louis.
Sorry.
But B, also, I think because we endorse it, I don't know that we can win anyway. So, but we're going to try and help you guys out. We're going to try and help you win the $100,000 by going through some of these props. First, though, I want us each to give our Super Bowl score prediction. Let's get that out of the way. I'm going to do prediction, MVP, and my favorite prop, not necessarily from the sheet, but just rapid fire what I saw here. So for me, listen, I can't pick against my 49ers. I know logically, everybody's picking the Chiefs. I know that the 49ers are a slight favorite in Vegas, but, analytics and experts are picking the Chiefs. I have a hard time picking against Mahomes, but listen, I'm a 49ers fan. I'm going to pick my Niners. I've got San Francisco 27, Chiefs 23. My MVP, I've been teasing this a little bit all week. I've got Deebo Samuel as my MVP. If you make that bet, by the way, it's plus 2,000, at least it was yesterday. So Make a little coin on Deebo if he ends up being the MVP. Here's my prop that I like. It's the over-under for the longest pass completion for both Purdy and Mahomes. The over pays out minus 110 for both of these. I actually like the over on both. Brock Purdy's is actually longer than Patrick Mahomes is. Purdy's is 37.5 yards. Mahomes is 36.5 yards. If they'll let me, and we'll see. I kind of want to parlay those both, take the over on both, maybe get a little plus money on longest pass completion for both teams. All right, Andrew, where are you at?
Well, I don't want the Chiefs to win.
I know.
So we're on the same page there. I have the 49ers 23, the Chiefs 17. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair because of these two defenses. I think the 49ers are going to catch back up to who they once were, and the Chiefs are already performing a lot better than a lot of people expected they would this season. And here's the number I like to pay attention to when I look at betting on teams. I like seeing how the public is shifting the vote. And despite being favorites, everyone will be betting on the Chiefs, right? Despite the 49ers as favorites, the +2 is so enticing that people want that. But Vegas doesn't want that in the end, right? Vegas doesn't want to award the public. They want to award the sharps.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I watched kind of the money move, 70% of the bets and 75% of the money is on Kansas City when it comes to that spread. Yet the line moved to 2.5 in favor of San Francisco yesterday. So if all the money is coming in on one team, the dog, why would it again move in favor of San Francisco so that it entices more people to bet the dog? Which makes me believe that San Francisco is going to win this game by 3 points at least. So I'm putting my money on San Fran. I think Vegas is manipulating you. Don't buy into that. I have Christian McCaffrey as my MVP, and my prop is Kelsey anytime touchdown. I know B. Edwards likes the first touchdown for Kelsey, and there's reason for that because over the last 3 postseasons, he scored 8 out of the 9 Chiefs playoff games, and he scored the Chiefs' first touchdown in 5 of those 6 games. So if you want to get juicy and bet that +800, you can, but I'm going to stick with the anytime.
There we go. All right, let's start running through some of these prop cards. We got about 5 minutes here left in the segment. Let's start. You're going to just fire some at me. I'm going to go gut reaction. I looked at these earlier, but I didn't really make my picks pre-programmed. I'm just kind of wanted to know what I was getting into. But Andrew's going to fire these off rapid fire. We're going to see if we can help you. And listen, I don't know if I'm actually going to help you because I don't know if this is going to be good advice or not. But either way, we're going to try and get through some of these prop card challenges.
I'll tell you too, Ravi, sometimes the best things to fill out are the ones that you don't really know a whole bunch about, like March Madness brackets, for example. So when you hear it, all I want you to do is say it.
Okay.
Hear it, say it, okay? And there may not be an alien invasion on this prop card list, but there is, will the national anthem be over or under the 2-minute length?
Under.
Who will win the opening coin toss?
Kansas City.
What will be the first offensive play call, run or pass?
Pass.
Which team will score more points in the first half?
San Francisco.
Or would it be a tie? You still going with San Fran or the tie?
San Francisco.
What will be the first scoring play of the game? Touchdown, field goal, or safety?
Touchdown.
Which team will kick the first field goal, or will there be no field goals in the game?
Kansas City.
Which team will score the longest touchdown, or will it be a tie?
San Francisco.
Will there be a 2-point conversion attempt after a touchdown?
Attempt? Yes.
Will a quarterback throw for 300 or more yards?
Yes.
Which team will score the shortest touchdown, or will it be a tie?
San Francisco.
Which team will have the most sacks, or will it be a tie?
San Francisco.
Which running back will have the most rushing yards, or will it be a tie?
Christian McCaffrey.
Which team will win the game?
San Francisco.
Will the margin of victory be more than 6 points?
No.
Who will win the MVP award of the game? Quarterback or any other position?
Any other position.
Which team will score last?
Oh, my gut said Kansas City.
How many interceptions will be thrown during the game? 0 to 1, 2 to 3, or 4 or more?
2 to 3.
What will be the final digit of the combined first half points? 0 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 to 9?
3, 4, I think. I'm not sure I understand that question.
What will be the final digit of the combined first half points? So say it is like 10 14. To 7.
Okay, yeah.
Then it would be 17. You'd take 7 to 9. So you going 3-4 still?
Wait, hold on. Say that one more. Is it just the final digit or the whole thing?
So you combine the first half points.
Yeah.
And then it's the final digit of that combined number.
So if it's like 14 to 10, then it's 4.
It would be 24. So yes, 4 would be that number.
Yeah, I'll stick with 3 to 4.
All right.
Sorry, math
We got somewhere.
numbers is hard. I don't know, man.
Will the jersey number of the player to score the first touchdown be an odd or an even number?
I'm gonna go odd.
Will the total combined points scored be an odd or even number?
Well, what did I say? I said 27-23, so even.
How many total touchdown passes will be thrown by both quarterbacks? 0 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 11. Holy cow. Or 12 or more.
If it's 12 or more, we will be up until the show starts on Monday. That will be the longest game in history. But I think 3, so 0 to 3.
If it's 12 or more, that's like when we talked about the baseballs being juiced in the World Series when everybody was just hitting home runs.
That's like Big 12 football right there. If we get 12 or more.
Definitely not Big 10. After kickoff and the first national commercial break, what will be the first product to advertise? An adult beverage, a tech product, or other?
I mean, I was thinking Budweiser, so I'm going to go adult beverage.
Which receiver tandem will have the most combined receiving yards? Kelsey Rice, Samuel and Ayuk, or it will be a tie?
Well, I'm going to go Samuel Ayuk.
Will the total points scored in the first half be an odd number or an even number?
I'm going to go even number.
Well, yeah, if you went 4, so
yeah,
24, that would make sense.
Oh, I had to remember. I was like, where did I say I was going to be? Okay.
Yeah, that question is pretty much the same as the one earlier.
Yep.
Just written differently. So you can either get those both right or both wrong. And then finally, which team will force the first turnover? Kansas City, San Francisco, or there will be 0 turnovers in the game?
I think Kansas City forces the first turnover.
Okay, there you go. That's the prop card. That's Ravi's rapid reaction prop card.
Those are all gut reactions. No, I think Kansas City. I think Brock Purdy throws an early interception and then settles down and starts to cook.
There you go.
I think that's what it's going to be. We are coming back to wrap up the show here on a Friday. Somebody's banging on a door here. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing surprises me there.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening. We will wrap up the show and we will do our Super Bowl party food draft coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. I'm Ravi, Lulla, Andrew Rogers here with me. And as we bring this show to an end, we wanted to do a Super Bowl party food draft. We did this for Thanksgiving on a Thanksgiving food draft. And it was a lot of fun. It's just a dumb little exercise, but I enjoy doing it. So Andrew put together a list of foods, drinks, and a wild card category, as I'm going to call it. And I, and Cam will be drafting from this list. So Andrew, I will let you take over from here.
So I changed the beverage list as well. So
Okay.
Originally it was beer, it was hard alcohol, it was soda, but I made it specific soda, specific hard alcohol, and specific beer to make it a little more challenging, or to get somebody to choose that category early. I wanted to try to sway a few things. So in the food category, you have your typicals, your wings, your pizza, your sliders, you have nachos, hot dogs, and pretzels. Those are kind of your main course items there. And then you have your dips. You have queso, salsa, and guac. You have buffalo chicken dip. That is all one. That is correct. That is all one. You have buffalo chicken dip, and you have spinach artichoke dip. Those three were the top three in terms of party dips for the Super Bowl. So that's why they're on there in no particular order. And then you have the drinks.
Okay.
Here's where it gets interesting.
I'm nervous.
Beer is Busch Light. The hard alcohol is Tito's vodka.
Okay.
And your soda is Diet Pepsi and Pepsi.
Okay. Here's my question on the Tito's. Do we have any mixers? Are we drinking this straight?
You get a mixer, but it has to be a juice.
Okay, so I could do like orange juice and do like screwdrivers for the whole game.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, you are not just drinking, you're not Russian, you're not just drinking juice.
I didn't know if we were just going like straight pulls from the Tito's bottle or what. I was like, man, I mean, depending on how this game goes, that might be where I'm at by the fourth quarter, but I don't want to start that way. You know what I mean?
Correct. And then you have your specialty category.
Okay.
You have to listen to one Taylor Swift song on the way to your party, whether you're hosting it or you're carrying these items to your party. And those party items are Bad Blood,
Okay.
Shake It Off,
Okay.
and 22. Those are the songs
All right.
that you have to choose from to go or listen to before the game. All right. Now we have Cam joining us on the stream. He's participating. He's filling in for Shane this week.
What up, Cam?
Ravi got to start for the waste management draft.
I did. Yeah, I did.
So, Cam, since you're the newcomer, I'm going to let you choose the position you want to be in for this draft. It's a snake draft. So if you pick third, then you pick first in the second round.
Okay.
Or you could pick first overall, but you don't pick until pick number 6 then in that next round. So you get to choose where you want to start.
Cool. And I'm glad it's a snake draft because, I mean, all those foods are delicious. So I will take third position because I'm going to lock down my drinks.
Okay.
All right.
So, Ravi, I'm going to put you at 2.
Fair.
Because you started the waste management, and I'll kick this thing off with wings. Give me wings at my Super Bowl party.
Okay. I think that's fair. I really enjoy a good hot dog. I'm a little, I don't want to go drink this early. I feel like it's too early, but I'm going to go safe here. I'm going to go pizza.
I'm shocked that you didn't go with your diet soda. I really am shocked.
I thought about it. I really did.
All right. Did you say the pretzels are they just like regular tiny little pretzels, or are they like
no? They're going to be like
type.
Your big warm pretzels with like nacho cheese, whatever.
Yeah, give me that. That's what I'll take.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting first food pick.
Because the pretzels are about to make me really thirsty.
That's true. Yeah. So you got to get your drink
get
in
my
now.
drink in there.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Right. These pretzels are making me thirsty. So then, are we on to round 2 now?
Yeah, you're up.
I'll take number 1. I'll take that Busch Light, Tall Boys for a tall boy.
Okay.
Right.
I'm not
back to Ravi.
I'm not having any chances with getting stuck with Tito's, so I am going to go Diet Pepsi here.
Darn it, you son of a gun. I almost took diet soda just to take a kicker in the first round with the first overall pick, so Ravi couldn't have it.
Andrew, you're going to be wasted by the end of this thing.
All right. I kind of have to be. As a Bears fan, I have to drown my sorrows in something.
In Tito's, apparently.
All right, so Ravi's getting diet soda, but it has to be Pepsi because I was trolling him because he only drinks Diet Coke.
That's all right. I can do Diet Pepsi. Not a big deal. I can do that.
For me, because I'm stuck with Tito's now and no one else can take a drink. So that's the best thing. I don't have to take that until the final pick.
Yeah.
I am going to, I'm going to take buffalo chicken dip as my next pick because I get back to back here.
Yep.
So I'll take buffalo chicken dip, and there's no way I'm getting stuck with a bad Taylor Swift song.
I'm curious which of these 3 you think is bad.
I know. I don't want to say it.
Take it.
I feel like we can get down and dirty to Bad Blood.
You got the Kendrick Lamar version, right? Yeah.
I think we can get down and dirty. So I'm going to say Bad Blood for me here.
Okay, I'm glad this is left. This is an upset for me. I want nachos, man. Give me my nachos.
Okay, nachos for Ravi.
I think I'll take the spin art. I think that'll go good with some pretzels.
You know what? That is actually a really good pick.
I love spinach artichoke dip. That's a good pick. Yeah.
Spin dip, and then you get one more pick here. Cam, you can take a Taylor Swift song or another food item. The food items we have left are
sliders, queso, and hot dogs.
Yes, but Cam already took a dip, so he has to take hot dogs or sliders.
There we go.
Okay. Well, I don't know the song 22 by Taylor Swift.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22.
So I'll take Shake It Off just because at least I know that one.
Yes, Ravi got stuck with it. All right.
Is that the one that was bad?
Oh man, I don't want to listen to that song at all. No.
I'll be honest. See, I was saving my Taylor Swift song for last because I looked at these 3 and I was like, man, I like all these 3. No big deal. I'm good.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. 22 is actually You Belong With Me.
Still fine. I'm okay.
Well, that song I know.
Okay, so is it my turn?
It is your turn. You actually can take, well, you're stuck with, I think you're done. You either have the song or the queso, salsa, and guac. So you choose either or.
Okay, I will go queso because again, nobody's got a song left, so I'll go queso here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Salsa
that.
and guac. That's actually a good
combo. I like
there.
that.
I've got a kind of nice here.
So for me, I'm going to take sliders because I think that'll pair well with the wings, like burger sliders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I could go like an all chicken outing and do like fried chicken sliders. No, we'll keep it with burgers. And then I'm going to do Tito's, vodka, and juice. All right. All right. This is a good list, guys. This is a good list.
Just going to be annihilated here. All right. Andrew's going to put those out on Twitter, I believe.
Yep. I'm going to read them off one more time, though, so that everybody can see it or hear their choices again.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
So, Cam, he's taking pretzels, spin dip, and hot dogs as his food item to his party.
Okay.
He's also carrying a case of Busch Light, maybe a couple, who knows. And he's listening to Shake It Off on the way.
It sounds like I'm going to a little league game or something. Pretzels and Busch Light, some spin art.
2 cases of Busch Light to a little league game. It's like T-ball and Cam is just like, let's go.
I'm yelling at the umps, man. I'm yelling at them.
He's tailgating T-ball games.
It's the coach pitch, and he's like, this guy's terrible.
We have Ravi taking home pizza, nachos, queso, salsa, and guac to his party. He's also got a few cases of diet soda, along with maybe some regular soda. And he's listening to 22.
I feel great. I feel great about my draft.
And he's feeling 22. Maybe he's feeling more like 18 since he can't drink alcohol at his Super Bowl.
I can. I just don't want to. I'm good.
And then I myself am taking wings, buffalo chicken dip, and sliders. I got the Tito's, vodka, and juice. And we are jamming out to Bad Blood on the way to my party.
Nice.
So we'll put those on Twitter and we'll let people vote.
All right, just about 90 seconds left here. I wanted to leave more time for this, Andrew, but that's how we go. We just run out of time all the time.
How fitting.
First, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything you've done the last few months. I know I said it with DB, I said it on Twitter, but I want to say it to you directly. I don't think there would be a morning show left if it weren't for the work you did the last few months and totally changing your plans, sacrificing time away from your fiance to be here with us the last few months. I thank you so much for that. And we will greatly miss you on the morning show, but I'm sure we will still see each other quite often. And of course, I'll be down in St. Louis for the wedding. So really appreciate you so much, man. I'll give you the last minute to say whatever you've got.
My man, I appreciate those words a ton because you've been just a blessing to work with. Shane as well, DB, the whole Hurrdat Sports team. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I'll be forever grateful for the time I spent in Omaha, and I couldn't be more thankful to the people of Nebraska because that's what people keep asking me here. Like, who do you miss the most? And I'm like, it's the people. Like, I just miss the camaraderie of the different relationships I had in that area. Thank you to UNO for bringing me to Omaha in the first place. And that's where I got my start. And then that's where Bill discovered me doing my thing at Hurrdat Hockey at Omaha hockey games. And then, I ended up getting brought on to Hurrdat to start Hurrdat Sports. And I spearheaded that with Sasha and Anna. And we built this awesome team. I mean, we have like 25 people there. So I just couldn't be more thankful to them taking a chance on a sports junkie like me, as young as I am, and trusting me to bring an awesome product to both radio and social media daily. It just was time for me to start a new chapter in my life with me getting married and wanting to establish some roots somewhere and be closer to family. That's why I chose that this was probably the right time for me to move. But I'm super thankful that I can stay with the team, at least in some capacity. I'm going to miss all the listeners, all the interaction, the daily talks like this, but you know what? I'll call in from time to time. You guys call me. We'll shoot it. And, it's cliche, but it's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Andrew, thank you so much. Wish you and Ashley nothing but the best. And it's not like goodbye. We'll be around each other plenty. I know you're coming back up for special events and things like that, but we love you to death here. Thank you so much for all you've done. And congratulations on getting to be back closer to family and finally living in the same state as your fiance again.
I know, 5 months, long time coming. So she's happy. I'm happy. It's a good life change for me.
Well, thank you. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.